How's everyone doing? Thanks for joining me on my small engine repair channel. Today's project is on this Yard Machines made by MTD. It's a 30-inch and it's got a power more engine on it, 357 cc's. And I just purchased this from my scrap guy, and I don't know anything about it, so we're going to dive into it and see if it makes for an interesting video. Alright, so yeah, like I said, I don't know anything about this thing. He just picked it up. I know it was probably stored outside, so I'm going to check to see if there's any fuel in there. The cap assembly around the fuel cap and the fuel tank itself is actually in pretty rough shape. And so this kind of worries me a little bit with all that rust, and as I suspected, we've got a pretty rusty tank. So I'm going to have to take this tank off. Obviously, I'm going to probably go ahead and soak it in some Evapor-Rust. I do have a video where I do a bit of a unsponsored review on Evapor-Rust. I'll link that in the top corner here. I didn't even pull it over to see if it had compression, but it does have compression. But when I pull it over, I'm hearing something coming from underneath here. I don't know if you can pick that up. What I'd like to do is just see if this thing will even turn over. So I think what I'm going to do is, because you don't have good access to the carburetor right off the hop here, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take the spark plug out, take a look at the condition of the spark plug, and throw some fuel down in that hole, and we'll see if this thing will even fire up. Alright, so here's the spark plug. It looks a little bit sooty. And it's an NGK spark plug, so it's a good quality spark plug. So I'll probably clean this up a little bit on my wire wheel. Then I'm going to spray some carb cleaner, carb spray, or quick start right into that spark plug hole. Alright, so I cleaned up the spark plug nice here, and made sure the gap was okay at 30 thousandths of an inch. I'm going to spray quite a bit carb spray in there. Make sure I get it started by hand so I don't cross thread it. I've already had to replace the entire head on an engine this season because somebody tried to replace, I guess, the spark plug, and they cross-threaded it. Alright, so throttle is up. Oh, the other thing I noticed here is it is missing a key. So I'm going to have to find a key. I do think I have a replacement key for this thing. Alright, so I got the key in there now, so I'm just going to turn the choke on and see if this thing will start up at all. So what can I say? It's in pretty, I mean, it stayed running. Obviously I'm still gonna have to do something with this tank. I might still clean out the carburetor, at least check it over, because if there's rust in the tank, there might be some rust that made its way to the carburetor. The other thing is when I engaged the augers, which did work, and the transmission, so everything seems to be in functioning condition, there was some racket coming from here. So I'm going to take this off and see what's going on underneath this belt cover. All right, guys, get the belt cover off. There's two 3/8 bolts here. One side. All right, let's see what's going on up and underneath here. All right, well, right off the hop, I would say that this belt is probably not in very good condition. This belt for the drive seems to be okay, but the belt for the auger seems to be in kind of rough shape there. Now, before you go spinning any of these pulleys and all that sort of stuff, definitely undo the spark plug and take out your key. All right. So this way, if you do spin this over, it doesn't try and start on you. You can kind of see there's a bit of concave to the top part of this belt, and that's not supposed to be like that. So something is kind of wearing that top centerpiece of that belt. It kind of smells, I mean, you can see some belt debris, which is very common anyways. You can kind of smell some belt wear, because the top side of this belt really only rubs on this pulley here, and I don't see how that's causing any wear. Like the pulley itself, it's free and there's no sort of hump which would correspond to the caving of this belt. So anyways, I'm gonna pull this over and I'm gonna see so when I'm pulling this over, there should be no reason why it should start, but this should rotate the belt through so that I can see the rest of the belt. And it looks like this belt kind of rides on this outside of this pulley here, not in the center, like so kind of thing. Just wonder why this pulley keeps moving over that way. It should be more bent kind of this way, I think, like this. So that sort of rides in the center of the pulley. So I just turned the flash on the camera and you can kind of see how everything doesn't really line up. You can see this guy's straight up and down here. This guy's on an angle tilted this way. And then when you look down, the belt doesn't really line up all that well on that bottom pulley. So there's definitely some kind of an alignment issue going on here. You can see how the belt kind of comes across. And I think if this pulley was out more like that, then everything kind of lines up. But as soon as this pulley goes back over like this, then it starts to put pressure, sideways pressure this way on the bottom part here. And then it's kind of riding. I don't know if you can see this little bit of buildup right here of belt material. There's a little bit on the end of my fingernail. So it's definitely riding crooked here. And that's causing this belt to wear out from the outside, actually. All right, so since these things, none of them line up, and I think the culprit is this guy here, what I'm going to do is just take off this pulley, and I'm going to see if it's possible that maybe if I bend this bracket a little bit, like more this way, that I could actually get this thing to look more like that, so that it lines up properly with the other two pulleys, top and bottom. So to loosen that guy off, you need two 14 millimeter two 14 millimeter wrenches. So all right, so now that it's loose, if I were to kind of line up those three pulleys in a line, I know you can't see the bottom one, but the top one is lined up there. You can see down here that how much that arm looks like it's bent. So there we go. All right, now the bearing seems like it's in really good shape. I don't think it's the bearing at all. There's no slop in it. So I don't think it has anything to do with the pulley. And I don't know if you can see that. There's that rubber all the way around here, around this edge, which means that's why that's the rubber from the outside of this belt, and that's why it's kind of concave. So what I think I'm going to end up doing here is just bending this plate right here, the top of this plate, so that it's going to sit more flush. All right, so let me show you now how it looks. The center of this belt is pretty much on the center of this pulley. And if you look at it all from straight on, it looks definitely way more centered. So I think this is gonna fix our issue. Now, the fact that the outside of this pulley is worn out really doesn't concern me at all. I would say that belt could use a little bit more tension, but when you engage it, it's still pretty much in the center. It does get pulled a little bit this way, but it's definitely better. So what I think I'm going to do now is take this off again, clean up this pulley so we don't have any of this rubber residue, and we're gonna spark this up and see if that fixed our issue. All right, so I got it all plugged back in again. I'm gonna see if it'll start on its own. Choke, throttles up. Here's some primer going. Let's see what happens. Alright, so she's definitely out of gas, and yeah, this didn't solve our problem because when I was releasing the handle, it wasn't releasing this belt. Now I think the belt is worn, and unfortunately that's not releasing it. It's actually getting stuck in this pulley, so I think I'm going to need to service a new belt, but it also is pulling it to the side again, so I don't want to put a new belt on there and then hopefully have the same thing happen. So we're gonna have to source a new belt and see if that fixes our problem. Alright guys, so let me show you what I noticed there when I was engaging the augers. In addition to the belt issue that we got going on there, I heard a rhythmic sort of a thumping or scraping noise, and I just wanted to show you guys what I found. Some of you might notice it already, but take a look at these auger blades. There should be fairly consistent in the spacing between the three of them. If you take a look, these three are pretty much the same spacing. Three, same spacing. You know, three, and this one's a little closer than these two, so I would say this one probably could use to be bent just a little bit out this way to kind of make that spacing pretty, you know, a little bit more consistent. But take a look at these bottom ones. So from this guy to this guy, there's, I don't know, about 3.5, 4 inches of space. And then from this guy to this guy, there's about 2 inches of space. And take a look down here, if you can look closely, it's actually wearing away the metal on the skid plate right here. So if you take a look underneath here, this is how much I can fit my finger underneath there in between the auger blade and the housing, and this one is currently rubbing. I can't stick my finger, I can't stick anything underneath there. I probably couldn't get a piece of paper under there right now. So this blade definitely has been bent at some point and needs to be bent back out this way and up, right? So I get some clearance and it's not rubbing up against there every time it rotates around and around and around. So I'm gonna get that done next. Alright, so I rotated the blades around so that these ones are actually rotated around. You can see this is where it's definitely rubbing, and the metal has been starting to ground away right here. And take a look at the difference here. So this one definitely needs to be bent way over there. So to do that, I mean, there's no real professional way, as far as I understand, to do it. Just grab yourself an adjustable and try and bend it back, you know, as good as best you can. The only problem I see is it's still a bit higher than these two. Like the spacing looks a little bit, definitely looks a little better, but the spacing is good, but this still looks a little bit higher. But the only way I'm going to get this to see if this is correct is by rotating them around again until it kind of rubs up against here to see if it rubs. I think it needs to go back this way a little bit because this looks like it's going to rub up against this bolt. So I might take this one over a little bit, but this is the one I just bent. I haven't seen it come around just yet, so this guy, we said it's got to go over that way a little bit, which kind of makes sense with what I'm seeing there on the okay. So let's bring it around again. So that's definitely going to clear. I think we're good, so we're gonna go ahead and fire this up. Alright, so just a quick update, guys. As you can see, I've got the fuel tank off and currently soaking it in some Evapo-Rust, including the cap there. It's got to soak for, you know, typically overnight is probably the best. This has been soaking for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just trying to soak the bottom of this cap. And it is already starting to look a little bit better. And hopefully the tank will also look a little bit better, because it was looking pretty nasty, as you guys were aware. The other thing I did too off camera is I ordered a new belt and replaced this belt. It's probably a good thing I did replace the belt. Let me see here yeah, you can see that's all cracked and it's wore out all on the inside there. So just put a new belt on, and the part number for that, this one's just an aftermarket belt, but the part number is there, 754049195, 954-04195 also works. And I think the other one is 954-04195A is also going to work for you. It's a 37-inch by half-inch belt. So the other thing I've done is serviced the transmission. Sorry, I didn't record this one because I have a video on this already on my channel, so I will link that in the top right and in the description down below if you're interested in changing the belts on one of these things. The other thing I did off camera was serviced the transmission. And because to get this belt off, you got to kind of flip it over onto its bucket and get underneath where the transmission is. I also have a video on how to do that on my channel, so I'll link that as well in the top corner and the description down below. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was I also serviced this carburetor, and I have many videos on how to service carburetors for both snowblowers and lawnmowers. So guys, I didn't bother going down that road again. You can just do a quick search on my channel and you could find all sorts of videos on how to service these carburetors. The last thing I want to do while I'm waiting for the tank is I don't know if you can see, I did point out that this corner was all mangled, and this thing has been riding on the scraper bar for some time, and you can see here that the skid shoes are actually completely off the ground, which is not how you adjust these things. I again have another video on how to adjust the skid shoes on one of these things, or it's pretty much the same for all the machines. So I'll once again link I'll link to the video in the top and in the description down below. So I'm just trying to keep this video, you know, under a certain amount of time period. One last thing, just while I have you here, is I also greased all of these shear pins. I use some anti-seize, some copper anti-seize. You can use nickel anti-seize or grease, just anything in general. This one doesn't have Zerk fittings on it to be able to grease the in between the auger blades and the shaft. So what you can do when you have your shear pins out to service those, you can actually spin the auger blades around, and you can actually try and spray some sort of a lubricant in between the auger blades and the drive shaft. So I've already done all that off camera as well. So we're just gonna wait and see how we make out with this tank. I'm sure it's gonna be better than it was. We're gonna put this all back together. I am gonna get a light bulb to put in the light here as well. So I'll fix that up as well. And when I have it all back together and ready to go, I will come back and show you the final product. Alright, so I got everything pretty much put back together. I didn't put on a couple of the knobs here yet. I've had the fuel tank on for a while, and fuel's been flowing to the carburetor. I don't see any leaks, so that's good. I just wanted to test out this belt and the new belt and the pulley that we adjusted here. I also got a light bulb. Unfortunately, the light fixture itself is kind of broken, so I'm probably gonna have to go ahead and probably glue that in somehow. So just want to see that works. All right, a little bit of throttle. I already gave it a couple primes just to see that it was working. The choke is on. It's running good. The light works perfectly. We're just going to see what happens with the belt here and the auger assembly. Are spinning perfectly. There's no grinding noises, nothing's being hit. I did adjust the skid shoes as well. I think we're going to call this one a win. Alright, this one looks good. So just going to get the belt cover back on. I'm going to fasten that light bulb into the light assembly and just clean this thing up. And I think I already have a buyer for it. Someone contacted me today looking for a snowblower. So anyways guys, hopefully it was informative. And if you like the content, please smash the like button down below. And if you're not a subscriber already, consider doing so. It really helps me out on the channel. And until our next project, guys, take care.